How's everybody doing? It is Monday the 18th. It's almost 3 o'clock. It's 2:52 just to be quite clear with everybody. We had such an exciting weekend. We're starting it off with a very, very nice Monday. Weather, it's a little cloudy, I'm kind of digging it, but overall it's nice. And if I had to sum up my weekend, it would be bittersweet. And that's really what you have to think about. I think out of watching all the playoffs, I'm sitting back and I'm looking at it from my perspective, and everything that happened this weekend was bittersweet. I'm a guy that likes to enjoy wings while I watched football last night. Went to Applebee's. They had all you can eat wings. Absolutely love that. Um, I'm watching the Saints Bucks game. It's tied going into the fourth quarter. I'm sitting there enjoying my Buffalo wings. Um, Breeze throws a pick, and it really shouldn't even been a pick. Bad play by the wide receiver. I think it was Jared Cook, actually. But as I watched the game unfold from that fourth quarter, you start to see the Buccaneers pulling away. And at that moment, I had realized, I had came to this conclusion that this is the last time that I'm going to see Drew Brees probably play on a football field. And I think we all realized it. And some sad song comes over the speaker, and I'm sitting there like, man, this has got me choked up just thinking, because everything that Drew Brees not only means to the city in the state of Louisiana, but what he means to kids that grew up watching him play football, that watched an ultimate competitor compete at a high level for so long. And it's just going to be hard to not think about him not being in the league potentially. I mean, there's a chance that maybe he comes back, but I just don't think that that's in the best interest of him. And it's kind of weird. Brady's 43, playing probably some of the best football of his career. And here's Drew Brees, who's 18 months younger than him, and, this is it. It's just so weird. I've been blessed as long as I can remember watching Drew Brees play football. And he was one of my favorite quarterbacks for a little bit, because him and Favre during that era where they used to go back and forth at each other, they were two of my favorite quarterbacks, and I'll never forget watching the Saints win that Super Bowl. And after everything that the city of New Orleans had went through, and he wins it, and it was just amazing to watch him beat Peyton Manning. I remember that Super Bowl very vividly. I mean, it was such a great one, and Drew Brees is a great one. And he is no doubt in my mind a Hall of Famer. What he's done for this game has been amazing. And there's actually a documentary I think the Saints put out, and it was his journey from being drafted by the Chargers and getting his shoulder hurt and working through that and trying to prove that he could play again, to winning a Super Bowl and being the accomplished player he is. So, I mean, to Drew Brees, hats off to you, man. If this is it, you've been such an inspiration to me, and I know there's a lot of football people everywhere that, I don't think Drew Brees is a guy that you can hate. He's just such a great guy and a great competitor. So that's all I'm going to say about that. We'll go into the game a little bit later. But, man, I mean, hats off to a great career. I'm a Chiefs fan. I've made it abundantly clear. And yesterday was a roller coaster. I would be lying to you if I said that I was calm the entire time, because I wasn't. I mean, I think there was a bit of anxiety spike for anybody. I get weird. My mind goes a million miles a minute just thinking about it, because it was such a really, really weird game. Like, you go back and you start looking at the highlights, and you go back to early in the game, and you're like, wow, this was a really, really weird game. And, you go back and you look, and the Chiefs get the ball. They go down. They run a speed option with the quarterback. Patrick Mahomes gets in. They take a what should have been a 7-0 lead. Butker does what he has been doing all year and kind of struggling a little bit and misses an extra point. So now it's a 6-0 game. Cleveland goes down. They were cutting up the Chiefs defense like butter a little bit there, but the Chiefs defense held strong. 3-6 game. Chiefs go back down, make it a 13-3 game. I think at one point it was 16-9 or 16-3. It should have been 16-9. That's what I'm getting into here. There was a pass completed by Baker Mayfield. We all know what this is. I don't have to say it, but I'm going to say it anyway. It was completed to Rashad Higgins. Rashad Higgins extends for the pylon. A hit by Dirty Dan Sorensen. That's his nickname. That's what the Chiefs fans call him. I'm not calling him Dirty, but that's what we call him, Dirty Dan. Hits Rashad Higgins. The ball goes into the end zone, but since it goes out of bounds in the end zone, it results in a touchback. So the Chiefs get the ball, change of possession. Chiefs get the ball, going the other way with like a minute 30 on the clock, which will result to them taking a 19-3 lead. Now, I know a lot of people are upset with this call. They've been upset with this rule for a very, very long time. And I don't even understand it, but I get the point of it. And I'm scrolling through TikTok earlier today, and I know there's a sports guy. I watch him quite a bit. He is a Browns fan, so I was interested to see what his takeaways were from the game. And kudos to him. He took it very well. And I think more people have to take games like that and have to understand, you can't just point the fingers at the refs the entire time. And I think we do that a little bit too much. It's like, come on, guys. Those are factors you have to know going into the game. But he actually brought up a very good point. He said the way you have to think about it in football is that when the offense is going down the field, the defense is defending their area, their end zone. That's what they're defending. They're trying not to let you in. So when Rashad Higgins went to try to dive in that pylon and the ball came loose, the ball went into the enemy's territory because technically that end zone belongs to the Chiefs. When it went into the end zone, and since there was no clear recovery, goes to the Chiefs. It's their area. Technically, they would get the ball, whatever. And I thought that was a very good point. Now, I don't remember exactly what words he said, but he actually brought it up to a very, very good point. And I even opened my eyes and said, that's a great takeaway from that rule. That's a great way to understand, even to a point I didn't even understand. And I don't think a lot of people will, but it was a great point. And I look at it this way. And there was a Fox broadcast that I was watching. I think it was Fox. I think it was Burkhart. And it was a game where a guy had caught the ball, and they're reviewing it to make sure he's in. And then you see like a bobble for a second. But if you watch it in real time, it looked like the ball's caught. And this is my problem with reviewing the play. And this is where a lot of people were saying, you know what? That should have been a head-to-head helmet-to-helmet contact. It should be a flag. Brown should get the ball. Whatever you want to call it. And I'm seeing what happened to Mahomes yesterday. It gut-wrenched me. I was like, man, you don't want to see that happen. But if you really go back and look at it, it wasn't a dirty hit. Sure, in my head at the time, I was like, oh, that's a disgraceful. No, it's not. It was a good tackle. It was actually a great play by the defender, staying flat down the line of scrimmage, making sure he contained Mahomes. And I don't think it's a bad play call, so don't call out Andy for that. Mahomes loves running that option. He does it so much. And when you have a guy like Mahomes, you put the ball in his hand to win ball games. That's what you do. But my point is that when we start reviewing things, we start to notice more and more and more. The point of reviewing a play is not to point out the imperfections and say, oh, we didn't see that the first time, now this throws a whole wrench into whether it's a kid. No, that's not what it is. It's to make sure that they're getting the call right. And at that time, they were reviewing to see if it was a touchback or not. They weren't looking at Dirty Dan's hit. If you even ask those refs, they would say we weren't even looking at the helmet. We were looking at the goal line, the pylon, and the ball. So when you go to review it, you can't just say, oh, you know what, we just caught there's a helmet to helmet. Now we're just going to throw it. That's not how the NFL works. It hasn't worked like that since review's been in play. And I'm all for player safety. But, I mean, anybody would tell you Dirty Dan Sorensen's intent was not to go helmet to helmet. If you actually watch the impact, you can see, yes, he did lead with his head, but as he hit, he rolled towards his shoulder. And I'm not making any excuses. That's not what I want to do. But you have to look at it and say, like, listen, it's one of those deals, like, are we really going to throw a flag for something that we didn't even see until then, and we're not even reviewing this? And then there's the argument of should it be reviewed? Well, guys, we tried that with PI. It didn't work very well. Everybody was challenging everything. Because what ends up happening is there's not enough evidence to turn it over. So it would be completely and utterly ridiculous to challenge that. Then you're just wasting time. You're getting your quarterback out of the rhythm. You're getting your defense out of the rhythm. We've tried that with PI. Now the only difference you're asking is helmet-to-helmet contact. Refs are going to miss calls. It happens. And if you really want to argue, that wasn't even called about 5 years ago, maybe even 10 years ago. It wasn't even a thing. So I get it. Now, Browns fans, what the Browns did this season was nothing short of remarkable. I mean, they had an excellent season, and I'm excited for their future because I'm excited what Baker Mayfield has in store. You know, you went from going about a year ago to saying, oh, no, he might be a bust, and we're going to be looking for another quarterback. No, he's your guy. He is absolutely your guy. Now, you go back, and people want to blame that call, the fumble, whatever. It changes the game, because it does. Now, I would say in that circumstance that if he scores and makes it a 10-16 game, let's just say, for example, the Chiefs go down and they score because they'll still have about the same amount of time because it wouldn't matter. Maybe a couple less seconds, but I still think they get a field goal. Say it's a 19-10 game. It's a 9-point game. You know, then that changes the complexion of what you do, and maybe Mahomes doesn't get hurt. I mean, you can't play football being what if. You can't go into this game and saying, what if this happened? What if this happened? That's not how football works. At the end of the day, anyone that watches football will tell you the game of football is to have one more point than the other team, and that's who wins. And that's how the playoffs are. It doesn't matter what you do. It's what matters is showing up on Sunday and having one more point than the other team. That's what happens. And, you know, I like to watch a lot of sportscasters, sports journalists and stuff like that. And I seen a take, which I was completely taken by. Like, I was kind of shocked that this dude had even said it. And I agreed. I mean, Mahomes played, I think they said Mahomes was out 22 minutes of the third and fourth quarter. 22 minutes. So technically he played about 38 minutes of that game, a little over half. If you looked at what the Chiefs did with Mahomes at quarterback, the Browns weren't stopping them. The Chiefs didn't punt that entire game. The Chiefs were unstoppable with Mahomes in there. Mahomes in 38 minutes had better stats than what Brady did in his divisional game. And that's no knock on Brady. Don't take it that way. He threw for 255 passing yards, had a rushing touchdown and a passing touchdown. The Chiefs were dominating that game until Mahomes got hurt, and we don't know what that is exactly. I heard something that they don't even think it's a concussion. They think it could have been a pinched nerve in the neck, spinal cord area, and that makes a hell of a lot more sense to me because if you really go back and watch that play, his head slammed, the front of his helmet slammed the ground, but it didn't feel like it felt like because of where the arm was around the neck, it kind of prevented that helmet from just slamming down. So that would make a lot more sense to me. I'm not a doctor, and I want what's best. I obviously, and I think Bills fans would say it too, like you want to see Brady or you want to see Mahomes versus Allen. That's what you want to see. I get used to seeing Brady because Brady's always in the AFC Championship. Like this is weird not having him in here. But you don't want to. You want to see that. Like the Bills fans want to win because they beat Mahomes, not because they beat Henny. Like but you take away that play. I mean, the Chiefs did enough in 38 minutes to win themselves that ball game, which is weird. And the Chiefs' defense played tremendous. What became a weak spot in 2018 is now one of their strengths. And I'll tell you right now, that jersey that's hanging behind me, he is going to get a contract extension. I don't know how they're going to do it, but I have a good feeling he's going to be a Chief for probably the rest of his career, as long as they can afford to keep him. And you're saying, like, are they going to finagle the cap room? Well, they'll probably let a couple guys go. I think they'll restructure Frank Clark's contract. I think they'll let go of Sammy Watkins. I think they'll make a couple moves. They might keep D-Rob, but then again, Byron Pringle isn't bad. Overall, it was a very actually entertaining game to watch for the most part. Nobody wants to see a star quarterback get hurt. That did happen, but I'm telling you, the anxiety, the roller coaster feeling I had that entire game, because when Henny threw that interception, I thought it was over. I mean, I knew there was kind of a chance if they just kind of ran the ball, but overall, the Chiefs' defense played amazing. And let me just say right now, Andy Reid has got the biggest balls on the face of this planet. And people were like, oh, you would have did it anyway. He did it with a backup quarterback that had never played in a playoff game before. And I'm not knocking Chad Henne because he's probably ran that play 1,000 times. But in the biggest situation, Andy Reid said, listen, I'm not going to play conservative anymore. I'm going to go at him. So I'm going to go aggressive, and I'm winning this ball game now. Defense have played their hearts out. I'm not going to, I'm going to make sure that I can win it now. And, so it was great season for the Browns. I'm really looking forward to what they do next year. I feel like a rematch is brewing. And it was just a great playoff game. I think Mahomes will be fine. I think he'll definitely play Sunday, Championship Sunday. I'd be surprised if he doesn't. But great game. Browns got their coach. They got their quarterback. Their offense is pretty good. If I were them, I'd trade away Austin Hooper moving forward. I think he's a good tight end. I just don't. I think that Njoku is better and cheaper. You get what I'm saying? Like I think they overpaid for Austin Hooper. I don't think he's bad, but I think they overpaid. And we look at the Mahomes concussion deal, and I felt a lot more bad for Lamar Jackson. And you go and you look at that game, and that was a weird game. I thought it was going to be – I mean, it was a good game, but I thought it would have been better. I was expecting around a 25, 26, 24, 27, something close to that, like one of those close score type games. And I knew as soon as we had found out that Lamar Jackson was out because of concussion protocol, I said, wow, this game's over. And the Ravens had a chance to turn it around. They truly did. A red zone pick six made the game 17-3, and I think the drive after that is when Lamar got hurt, and then I was like, you know what, it's over. And you can play the what if game all you want, but this game statistically was weird because the score would lead you to believe that the Bills dominated on defense and did enough on offense. But if you really look at the offensive stats, the Ravens had more pass yards, more rush yards, more total yards, but less points. And that's where I come to my conclusion. Listen, it's about having more points than the other team. That's what football is. That's what sports are. No matter how bad you blow somebody, it's nice to blow somebody out, but most of the time it comes down to who has more points. Bills have more points. And this is where people come at me and say, well, the Browns deserve to win. The Ravens deserve to win. Guys, if they deserve to win, they say, then why didn't they? The Browns should have won. They should have won that game. Should have. Well, if they should have won, why didn't they? Don't say something stupid like that. Don't say they should have won and lost. Don't say the Ravens should have won and lost. Don't say the Saints should have won and lost. If you should have won the game, then you should have won the game. If you don't, then you shouldn't have won. That's how it works. It's just weird. I got heat saying something like that. Like I said, listen, before you say that your team should have won, they should have won. Why didn't they? Because they couldn't beat the team that they were facing. It's common sense. And, I think you just look at the Ravens-Bills game, and it really just was the weirdest thing I've seen, And I don't know, and I really don't know why it intrigues me so much on how it ended up, because I felt like it should have at least been a 13-17 game, but you look at it, it's a 3-17 game. Lamar goes out, and then you're just like, it's over. They're putting in an undrafted rookie quarterback, and it's like, you know what? Maybe he can do something. Probably not. And, but I will say this. Bills fans are the best fans in the NFL. I think a lot of people were when people have, the best fans in the NFL, people are always like, oh, why do people say the Bills all? The Bills truly have the best fan base in the NFL. There's no doubt in my mind. They are the nicest group of people. They are the most loyal group of people. Generous. I mean, there's so many words you could use to describe Bills fans. I mean, that's just it's truly a hats out to them. And for anybody that doesn't know what I'm talking about, they reached out to Lamar and donated. They're almost at $300,000 towards Lamar's charity as soon as they found out that he was out because of a concussion, and that's awesome. That's the type of things that I love to see. And shout out to Bills Mafia. And when I know Chiefs Kingdom, we'll see him next week, and that's going to be an interesting game. I'll get in my picks later, but it was one of those games that just very well intrigued me because there's just so many things. It was like, oh my goodness, like it didn't look like the Bills were clicking. Their offense scored 10 points, the defense scored 7, which is more of a shout out to their defense, but it just didn't look like they were clicking like they were, which is hilarious. The Bills were playing since week 17 up to now, and now they're not clicking, but the Chiefs, who weren't clicking in week 16, then rested for 20 days, looks better than a team that's been in rhythm, which is entirely weird. Like, nobody would have said coming into this, the Chiefs are going to look red hot. Well, actually, Chiefs fan probably would have told you that, but very, very intriguing. I'm going to toss it over to probably I would say third least intriguing game. I'd put the Bills-Ravens under that. I think that was the worst game of the weekend. This is one above that, and that was the Packers-Rams. The Rams did not look like they wanted to play. Did not look like they showed up to play whatsoever. Aaron Donald was obviously hurt. Jalen Ramsey he didn't look like Jalen Ramsey. That's not the Jalen Ramsey that we had seen all season. The Jalen Ramsey that was locked down all season looked like he was going to Cabo or something. All jokes aside, I mean, I don't know what you want me to tell you. I thought the Rams defense matched up pretty well against the Packers, considering that they had a star wide receiver, a star running back, and a star quarterback. The Rams D line matched up very well versus the running back. I thought Jalen Ramsey matched up very well against Devontae Adams, and I thought that they may be able to keep Aaron in check. They couldn't do that. The Packers offense was just better than Rams defense. That's what it boils down to. That sounds stupid, but because you knew that the Rams would have to be opportunistic on offense, like they were going to have to take what they can take and nick and dime away and maybe still have a chance at the end of the game. Like if they could just keep it a one-score game, I said they would have had a shot. But the Packers defense showed up, played out. And it was an interesting game there for a little bit. It seemed like the Packers kind of went to sleep, and then the Rams started catching up, and then they said, nope, this game's over. Aaron Rodgers is still the bad man he once was. He will be the MVP this year, and there's a reason for it. He's looking better than he did last year. The team's playing better than it did last year. I think it's playing, it's got more chemistry. I think the defense is playing really, really good. Jaire Alexander had a phenomenal game. I think they caught I don't even know the stats on it, but I know he shut down any Rams wide receiver he was on. He shut him down. And that's impressive. Had a great game from him. They're going to need a good one next week. That Packers defense is going to be in trouble next week because it's the rematches of week 6s, Bills Chiefs played week 6, Tampa Bay, Green Bay played week 6. But overall, it was just one of those games. It was a lot closer than it felt like. At times, but also there were parts of the game where it was like, the Packers are dominating, but then you're kind of like, you know what, it's kind of close, but then it's not, and then you just get it was exactly, I think, the game that I thought it would be, but I thought if there was any team that had a chance of upsetting the Packers, at least when you looked at the lower teams, like the Bears weren't going to do it. I didn't think Seattle was going to do it. I thought maybe the Rams had a chance. I think the Buccaneers play well. I didn't know if the Saints could. And then you swing over to what I talked about earlier, Drew Brees' probably final game of the Superdome, and I don't think that's how he should have went out. I really was kind of hoping he'd play one more year. To play in a season where you had limited fans at the Superdome and you're going to the tunnel and you can't even be there with the Saints Nation, and that sucks. This game really did. I think this was the best game of the weekend. It was very back and forth. These two teams are very even. I mean, offensively, I think the Bucs have more firepower, but they play around the same level that the Saints do. Like the defense is very good, the offense is very good. Where the Bucs defense or the Saints offense isn't as good as the Bucs offense, but the Bucs defense isn't as good as the Saints, even though the Bucs defense played very opportunistic, played very great defense, took very much advantage of Jared Cook. I mean, Jared Cook had a bad – he had a bad game. I wouldn't necessarily point the finger at Drew Brees for that loss. I mean, yes, you could see and you could look at the stats and say he had 3 interceptions. One of them I know for sure was Cook's fault, and then Cook had a fumble. I'd be more pointing the finger towards him, but it was a very close game going in that fourth quarter, and then the Bucs just clicked right then and there, got a field goal, made it 23-20. Then they got a touchdown. Then they just said, Fournette, we're letting you run. And he went off, man. Closed out the game. That was it. And there's a very heartfelt moment. You got to see Drew and Brady for what feels like the last time, what is the end of the era. The Sean Payton, Drew Brees era is over. Brady versus, Brady and Manning was over. Brady and Brees is over. Luckily, you still got Brady and Rodgers, maybe, hopefully, for a year, maybe two. Tom Brady's playing excellent football. I mean, he didn't throw for 300 yards, but I mean, he was very sharp, made the right throws, didn't turn the ball over. Everything the Bucs want him to be. That's what they needed. That's what they wanted from him at the beginning of the season. That's what they got last night. And, everybody's saying, who's going to be the apprentice to Drew Brees? Who's going to take it over? I don't think it's going to be Taysom Hill. I love Taysom Hill. I love his story. I love who he is. He's a Swiss Army knife, but you can't get caught up in the story. You can't get caught up in the fact that he's a Swiss Army knife. Like, that's what you can't say, oh, we're just going to give it to him, because you saw what he did. They become more of a run team. They become kind of a downgraded version of the Ravens. And honestly, I don't know how many people have seen this video, but it was kind of a moment telling Jameis that this is your team now. To kind of passing the torch there between Drew Brees and Jameis Winston. I think Jameis Winston is going to take over this team. There's no doubt in my mind. I absolutely no doubt. He's too talented. Jameis could probably go somewhere else if he wanted to, but I think what's best for his career and what's best for him is to be with the Saints and be with Sean Payton and let the Jameis Winston, Sean Payton era begin. He's going to get to play his old team twice. And they have a chance at winning the division again. Now, they got a lot of cap room stuff to figure out, but the Saints are too good. The front office will get it done. And even if the Bucs win the division next year, the Saints are going to be a contender to them. They're definitely going to pose a threat. But it was definitely one of the more emotional games, seeing Brady and Brees close that era out. And, I wanted to see Brees maybe get one last Super Bowl, but, it didn't happen. And, just close the book. And that's what happened. You're going to go in and you're going to look at these championship Sunday. It's going to be hopefully going to be here quicker than expected. Bills, Chiefs, and the Packers versus the Bucs. The Bucs won the first game around. It was at the Buccaneers. This game is now going to be played at Lambeau. And Tampa Bay is a warm weather team, but I will say this: Brady is used to the cold. Gronk is used to the cold, and I think that last night's win was a building stone. It was a step up. It was a way to build, and they will build off that. And I think it's going to be very interesting. Part of me feels like the best two teams in the NFC are playing in that game. Up and down, left and right. I mean, those are the best two teams. The Saints are in the top three. But I would rank it Packers, Bucs, Saints. I think the best two teams are going to play next week, and I feel like it's going to be a fun one. It's going to be a shootout. I feel like there's going to be a lot of points as long as it doesn't snow. I might sound crazy. I'm taking the Bucs. I just feel like they have so many weapons and the defense is playing good that they should win this game. Offensively, they're finally clicking. The run game is looking phenomenal. Brady's doing everything right. I don't think that the Packers' defense is quite as good as the Saints. So for Brady, that might help him out a little bit. I think the Bucs defense matches up really, really well. with the Packers. You stop Devontae, then you have to worry about Aaron Jones, and their front seven is very good enough, more than capable of doing that. So I'm taking the I do this. I'm not taking the Packers to win, but I'm taking the Bucs to win. The Packers, I don't know. And they could very well prove me wrong, but Bucs all the way. May change that, may not. I just think matches up pretty well. But I said that last week, so see how that goes. Swing it over to the AFC. It depends. I thought the Chiefs' offense looked very good while Mahomes was in. And if Mahomes does play, which I think he will, I think it's very possible the Chiefs win this game. Now, if you remember the first game they played, I think it was 26-17. The Chiefs won. The Bills are a better team now than what they were then. I think the Chiefs' defense is playing a little bit better. I like the matchup, though, because the Bills are not a run team. The Chiefs' weakness is the run. They play the pass very well. So I think that matches up very well with the Buffalo offense. And the Buffalo defense, in that first game, the Chiefs ran the ball down the throat with Clyde. I feel like that could be part of the game plan, especially with kind of Mahomes, coming back from whatever it is. If it's a concussion, it's a concussion. If it's a pinch nerve, it's a pinch nerve. And then he's got turf toe on top of it from what they're saying. And I feel like what would scare me is a very red-hot Bills defense. It was very good last year. It got underrated this year. So I think everything matches up well for the Chiefs. And it's two very respectable organizations. So it's going to be a very good game. I feel like this one is close. I feel like it has the possibility to be a blowout, but I feel like it's going to be close. I feel like it's going to be like a 34-30, 35-33, something like along those lines. Other than that, that's all I got to talk about today. My brain is fried. I feel like that way. Got through the first week of school. Golly, it's not even like I had that much homework. It's just the frying part. Like you feel like your mind's just mentally gushed out. So, food for thought. What game are you most excited to see? Which one would you rather see? Would you rather see the Packers versus the Bucs? Would you rather see the Chiefs? Like, if you had to watch one game, if you were forced to watch one game and couldn't watch the other, which one would you watch? Who do you think is going to win? As for that, I will see you guys tomorrow. My name is Garrett Sims. This has been the podcast. Have a wonderful Monday, and I will see you on Tuesday.